Well, if it's Friday, it is time for another episode of the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. I am Steve Casillo, and you are you, and appreciate you being here today. Chances are right now you're doing one of three things. Or maybe, no. You're doing one of four things. You are either watching live on Facebook right now, which it is Friday. It's 9:52 in the morning. You are watching the video on YouTube or LinkedIn. You are listening to the podcast on your favorite podcast player. Or number four, you are preparing to head downtown for the Pickle Parade and Palooza taking place this weekend here in Mansfield, Texas. In any event, it is Friday morning, and as we do every Friday morning, we bring in our financial philosopher. That would be Phillip Washington Jr. Say hello to the Mansfieldites.
How's it going, Mansfieldites?
And for those of you out there who are listening with a very keen ear, it is that time of year where we get little sinus things going on with allergies, and Phillip is experiencing that today.
Just love him. Just gotta love him. I appreciate him. It reminds me of springtime.
That's right. Where the tulips blossom, and the mucus does too. But we're not here to talk about allergies. We are here to talk about how to keep your money safe from bank failures. And when I think of bank failures, it has to do with assets and assets in general. I wrote down some notes here that stocks are an asset, real estate is an asset, your 401k is an asset, money in general, and they all have the risk of failing. And so I guess the going back to your topic, how does one keep your money safe from bank failures?
Yep. So I think it's super helpful for me to dematerialize all concepts into like ideas, like take it out of the material world and transfer it to an idea. Because ideas, also have life and death cycles, but it's easier to understand it when it's an idea. When you think of something, when we think of money or at least when I think of money like stocks, bonds, real estate, it complicates it. But when I think of it as value,
yeah,
right, that is communicated throughout an economy, then it makes more sense, because then you realize you never, money is actually never really lost. Because if you look at the wealth of the world, it's progressively increasing bigger and bigger over time, right? The different forms of it might fade away, but money never actually dies. It just changes form. So once you think about it from that perspective, then you go, all right, in order to protect it, I have to position my assets in ideas that will survive. And so what's undefeated is money is gonna follow the best ideas of the newer generation. The simplest way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So since the beginning of time, if you look at the best ideas, the most productive ideas, the most transparent ideas, the ideas with the most freedom, then money dematerializes out of old ideas and finds itself in new ideas, right? So you think of when we went from the pound to the dollar in 1900s. That was an example of going from an older type economy to a newer economy. Then you think about when we formed the futures market in the 70s. When we delinked from the dollar, and that was a new form of money, right? Now you think of, and I talk a lot about crypto as a new financial system or a new form of money, but it can even be owning stock in Robinhood or Coinbase. But it's what is the next generation's store of value? What are they going to want? What are they going to want to put their money towards? And if you own those assets with those ideas that have those ideas back of them, with freedom, all that kind of stuff, then your money is historically going to be safe.
Sure. And you talk about in your podcast, Wealth Building Made Simple, as you recorded that podcast earlier this morning, which, by the way, you can find on any major podcast platform. You talked about how generations, for instance, my grandparents didn't like Elvis, but then my parents didn't like Led Zeppelin, which then we didn't like our kids' music. And that as we go through the generations, you have to embrace the younger generation because they're the next idea.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's kind of an asinine concept. Once you look at it and you go, the arrogance of each generation to think that the future is going to look like their current or their past, right? Once you just open up and you go, I don't have to understand the new generation to understand the truth of like their ideas are going to flourish and grow up, right? And so, yeah, just like money, a lot of people are going, but I just don't understand, artificial intelligence, or I just don't understand crypto. I just don't understand Bitcoin. And I was like, well, you don't understand it mostly because you don't want to understand it.
I was going to say, artificial intelligence probably takes 10 minutes to learn about what it does.
Yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, most of it is like, we have like beliefs. Think of beliefs like containers that we put ourselves in. Like we intentionally put ourselves in a container, put the lid on, and then go, this is my room. And so you, like, if somebody presents you something outside of that container, you go, I don't believe it. I don't understand it, right? Because you put yourself in a container, right? If you come out the container, it's a lot easier to understand once you take yourself out of that belief. But once you keep yourself locked in that belief, then you can't understand it because you don't want to understand it because you put a lid on, you closed your mind.
Ooh, that's deep. That's very deep. So all right. So Signature Bank was the most recent one to go out of to fail, and from what I've read, the majority of those that had their money in that bank were Silicon Valley executives, and doing again just a little bit of research that your money is protected by the FDIC only up to $250,000. Mm-hmm. And if you are a Silicon Valley executive, there's probably a good chance that you've got a little more than that in that bank. So what are some of the ways that, first of all, do you lose that money if you have more than $250,000 in the bank?
If the government doesn't provide a backstop, then yes. But I think about incentives. The incentives of the government is to like guarantee over and above that amount, because once the government does not guarantee over and above the FDIC insurance limits, then everybody freaks out and you have a massive bank failure like 1929. So the ones that run it are pretty smart. They know what they're not going to do. And so some people go, well, why do they say guarantee up to $250,000? All of this is more like it's a book called a confidence game, right?
Yeah.
It's just a confidence game, but more than likely they're going to make sure there's no bank run, so they're going to guarantee more than what's necessary because they want to stop the flow of money coming out of the financial system, which will like collapse and crater everything. But there's consequences for guaranteed money because the government can literally always push a button and like keep the deposits in there. They can always create more money. The consequences of that is lots of inflation, right? So they want to balance lots of inflation with a depression that comes from bank failures. But now they're in a conundrum because they have no choice but to save the system, which is going to lead to inflation. And this happens over and over again, right? If you look at every 40, 49, 50 years or so, we have a massive decade of crazy inflation because of like this situation we keep putting ourselves. It's an over-indebted system. You try to protect inflation. That doesn't work because you have too much debt. Banks start to fail when they start raising rates, and then you have the system. So it's a natural process. We know what they're going to do, and so as an investor, what you want to do is have your money in assets that will likely grow at a higher rate than the money printing rate, which are assets that are youthful, assets of the next generation, assets that have a lot of upside. It's just like life, right? If you're gonna bet on the youth.
Yeah.
Like 80-year-olds have a lot of wisdom, right? And you appreciate that, but like insurance companies don't write life insurance policies on 80-year-olds for a reason.
It's because they're going to lose that bet.
They're gonna lose that bet.
Didn't you say it was Dale Carnegie that always does business with 30-something? 30.
He probably did too. It was his. I wonder if they're related. Andrew Carnegie, the steel guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get my Carnegies mixed up.
Hey, look, same thing. They both are wise, rich guys.
And all right, so we got about a minute or so left. Do you want to recap or just embrace the future?
Embrace the future. Remove fear, lack, and arrogance from your mindset, and then you'll see what's going on. But that, to me, that's the main thing. Get your mind right.
If someone wanted to get their mind right with Phillip Washington Jr., how can they reach out to you and for more information?
Best way is stonehillwealthmanagement.com. That is stonehillwealthmanagement.com. Yes.
Have a great week. We'll do this again next week.
See you next week. Thanks, Steve.